budget forums with the community, and he is our host tonight for tonight's meeting. My name is Peter Zanoni, and I'm the city manager for the city of Corpus Christi. In addition to Councilman Hernandez, we have other council members that are joining us tonight as well virtually for this meeting. And I'm going to identify some, and then if others are here through either after I speak or through the evening, they'll identify themselves. So I can see Councilman at-large Rudy Garza is with us, Councilwoman at-large, Councilwoman Paulette Guajardo is with us. I know Councilman Michael Hunter, also an at-large council member, are joining us this evening. And I'm not sure if I'm missing anyone else from the city council. I don't know if we have a second now to let them identify themselves. And if not, then we will as we progress through the meeting. Okay, great. Well, we want to thank all those council members that are joining tonight. The full council has been extremely involved in each of these meetings that we've had virtually with the community, and we're thankful for that. In addition to the city council members, we do have about 15 department heads joining us this evening, and they're going to help answer questions from the community tonight. And we're also here to listen, though. A big part of why we're here this evening is we want to hear from the community and to answer questions, but just your thoughts and your comments is a lot of good information for us to use as we provide our service to the community. So we have persons like our police chief, our fire chief, our city public works director, who's making a tremendous improvement in our streets. We have parks and recreation staff. Our health director is on if anybody has questions on COVID-19. And so we're here, and they will be communicating along with me this evening and the council members to you. Now, I did want to point out that we all are in separate rooms, but for that, we'd be wearing our face masks. This is one that I wear constantly at City Hall, but we know that last year we were out in the community and we were at the library there that was extremely well attended from District 5. We know that District 5 is very community and civic oriented, and we had a great meeting last year. And tonight won't match up to that in-person meeting, but we all know because of COVID-19, we're restructuring how we conduct our daily lives and daily business. And so this is a good example of us doing that. We've made several adjustments in how we operate as a city. But what we found so far is that the virtual meetings that you're participating in tonight and that we're participating in go okay. They don't replace the in-person, but we're able to really get a lot of good input, and we expect the same tonight from the members in City Council District 5. So, let me see real quick here. So I think that's it. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to give a quick overview of what we're going to do, and then I'm going to turn it over to Councilman Hernandez, who is going to do the official welcoming and opening of the meeting. But the format will consist of that. After I conclude here, Councilman Hernandez will do some welcoming comments. And then the screen will come back to me, and I'm going to give you an overview of the city's budget. Just hit a couple of slides we'll show on the screen that'll talk about some of the significant areas in the city's budget. And then after I speak for a few minutes, then we're going to show a video that we created that also summarizes the budget for the community. And then after those 2 or 3 events, we're going to leave the rest of the meeting time for you this evening to talk to us. And that may be in the form of statements, or it could be questions that you ask, and they can be on the budget, or they can be just on city services in general. And that's why we have all our department heads here waiting to listen to you and help respond. So that's the format. We'll conclude by going over the next steps, but that'll be one of the final things in the meeting. Okay, so with that introduction, I'm going to turn it over to our host, Councilman Gil Hernandez, and he is going to do some additional welcoming comments. Councilman?
Well, thank you, Peter. I appreciate the introduction, and everyone. Welcome to the District 5 budget presentation, and thank you for attending. It's important for us to understand how the city's budgeting our money and subsequently spending it. There's some key things I want to highlight here. For public safety, we're going to actually be adding some police officers, 5 police officers, and that's on top of the 5 that we added the previous budget. We're also going to be you're also going to see some on Parks and Recreation. What's not in the budget is we're creating a master plan for Bill Whitt specifically, and we're actually in the bond package. You'll see some funding going towards improvements on several parks. You're also going to see some street improvements. Now you'll see a list of streets that are on there. Not all of them are going to. You may not see your street on there, but don't worry. We've got a plan in place. And I encourage you to reach out to me if you have a street on there that you think really needs to be looked at, and we can address it. My contact information is on our website at cctexas.com. The other thing we want to talk about is utilities. There's not going to be a budget. There's not going to be any rate increases in any of the utilities this cycle. However, I don't want to sugarcoat this for you. There's a lot of challenges in the utilities, in wastewater, water, and stormwater. We're going to be entering into a consent agreement with the EPA that's going to require us to spend a significant amount of money to improve the system as a whole. And, my promise to you is I want to make sure that we're actually doing the best we can to minimize the impact on the utility bill. I think our utility bill is high enough as it is. That leads me into something I've been championing since I've been on city council, and that's preventative maintenance. It's not the sexiest thing to champion, but it's an important thing for us to really understand and utilize the systems that we have, specifically a system called Maximo. We are currently in the process of implementing an asset lifecycle management. And, forgive me on these terms, it's important to understand so we can do the preventive maintenance needed so we're not in the same position 15, 20 years down the road and we're having to go through and repair things that weren't taken care of. Again, we're living with the sins of the past and addressing some of these issues, but going forward, I want to make sure that we're doing the right thing so we don't have to do it again. And I encourage you after the presentations and comments from Peter and the video, please ask questions, ask hard questions. Don't be afraid to reach out. I know on Facebook you can make a comment and ask questions. I encourage you to do so. That's why we're here. That's why everybody's on here. We have all the directors to address that. Please do so. And as always, you can reach me. Go to cctexas.com. Go to the Facebook page. My cell phone number is published there, as well as my email address. So please do so. So, Peter, take it away.
Okay, great. Thank you, Councilman. We appreciate that. And I will admit that Councilman Hernandez is one to really make sure we're doing that life cycle management and Maximo. I think we don't get by one council meeting without him bringing it up. So we appreciate it. We know it's important because it's really about the bottom line dollar for the ratepayer. We have to make sure we protect those assets and eventually, or down the road, save money by doing those types of things now. I was looking at Facebook, so we have a pretty good following. Just so the community knows, we have persons watching this live on Facebook. People can also see it or are watching it on YouTube, and then some people are watching it on TV. The city has a public access channel, and so they're watching it there. And how you will communicate with us is if you type your questions or comments in on Facebook in the comment section where it says write a comment. Our staff is reviewing those, and they will read them out to us after the video. And so our interim director of communications, Deanna McQueen, will help to facilitate the dialogue between the constituent and the city and the city council members. And so she's tabulating, keeping kind of a running list of questions and comments that come in on Facebook Live. The same thing with YouTube. And then for those persons that are watching this on TV, they have the ability to phone in. We have a phone bank here at City Hall for this event, and they're taking those types of questions and comments. And so your question may not come up exactly the way it was typed into the Facebook chat per se, because Deanna is going to catalog and kind of summarize and arrange, but we will get to all of your questions. And we're watching them as we speak, and that's one neat thing about the Facebook app. And our directors are as well, so we have a general sense of what's happening. So let me give you some quick highlights here about what's in the budget. We're going to put up a couple of slides, and then we'll show you that budget video. So a key thing to note is that our budget that we're talking about, and this is for the fiscal year that would begin October 1, we work on what's called the fiscal year. So from October 1 this year to September 30th of next year, that budget that we've developed for those 12 months is balanced. And unlike other entities like the federal government that borrows money to balance their budget, we do not do that. So we're living within our resources that we have for the next 12 months, what we're projected for the next 12 months. The budget addresses the top priorities of the community, such as street maintenance and public safety. And there's a few others in there as well that we'll highlight. It focuses on those areas. And as Councilman Hernandez mentioned, there is no city property tax rate increase, either on our maintenance and operations side, as we call it, or on the debt side, the debt service side. We had the ability to raise the property tax rate to help pay for the 2018 bond program because the voters authorized a 2-cent tax increase, but this council and the staff did not recommend to do that. We forewent those 2 additional cents in the property tax rate, knowing that it's tough times out there with the COVID pandemic and the downturn in the economy. So no city property tax rate increase or adjustment, and then also no fees. So all of our utility fees, all of our charges for service, all those remain at the same level in the budget. The budget is $1 billion, 1.0 billion. You can see on the right-hand side of this chart, the various funds or groupings of that budget, how it kind of breaks down. The general fund is our most common fund, 242 million approximately. Enterprise funds like the airport, special revenue funds, the debt service funds is where we pay back our bonds that the voters approve and other debt that the city issues. And then our capital budget is just under 260 million. That's 1 year of investment in our infrastructure, including our utilities, our water, wastewater, streets, and parks, and so on. Now the budget is less, right? This year it was 1.1 billion, and you can see in the general fund it's 2% less. So the general fund is 265 million. In the current year that we're in, we adopted a budget last year that was 271 million. So several $1 million less, and that is because, as you'll see in the next chart, the downturn in the economy has resulted in less revenues, primarily sales tax, which is a big part of our general fund. And so property tax is doing okay. It'll come in pretty close to what it came in at this year. Sales tax, though, will be 6.5% less. That's the projection. And that's about $4 million. And then other revenues we project to come in less as well, about 2% less, so another 2.4. And so that downturn in revenues is on top of less revenue in the current fiscal year. And so year over year, there is a significant hit on our revenues, which means we can't provide as high a level of service to the community as if we had those revenues. But what we're going to show you here momentarily and what the video focuses on is we are doing improvements still. We're enhancing the budget. So on our next chart, there's still $78 million planned for street maintenance work, street rebuilds, street maintenance, and especially our residential streets, the ones that are most nearest to our home and we see more often. So this year we're recommending $78 million. And that does seem less, right, than the 128 in the current year, but what that column doesn't have for 2021 is a bond program that we're recommending with no property tax rate increase for the voters' consideration this November. And that has $61 million for streets. And so if you put half or some portion of that along with the 78, we're not too far away from the current record year budget that we had for streets of 128 million. One key project that I know in District 5, even though it's a little bit away from the downtown of the Bay Area, is Ocean Drive and Shoreline Drive. I know a lot of us drive that even if we don't live in the area. And we also know that street's been in bad repair for many, many years. And so we're recommending $14 million to do a comprehensive mill and overlay from one end of that street or boulevard to the other. And so that means from I-37 all the way to Ennis-Jocelyn. We're not just laying new asphalt on top of a bad road to end up with a bad road not too long after we put it down. we're going to do what they call a mill and overlay. We're taking up 6, 8, 10 inches of the street and underlying subsections if they're in bad shape, and putting a brand new 6-inch plus asphalt layer back on top, new striping, and it's going to be from curb to curb. So the bike lanes that people use to bike or walk, all that will be brand new, nice and structurally sound for 10, 20 years to come. So that's a major project with a lot more information coming out to the community. Now, nearer to your homes in District 5, this chart shows you, and it's a little bit small, so we'll keep it up here for a few minutes. These are all the streets that are being done just in District 5. They are streets that are being done because of prior bond programs. On the upper left, there's the residential street reconstruction program. You can see streets on here like Cotton Club Drive, Durant Drive, Stony Brook Drive. That's just a few that are listed. Our in-house crews now, for the first time ever, well, for the first time, I should say in many years, I'm sorry, are self-performing, meaning we're paving our own streets, not just relying on our contractors. And by doing so, we can get a lot more done with your tax dollars. And so here's a whole list of in-house work that's being done, overlays and rehabs, streets like Holland and Mansfield, Hampton. And then the far right table, street preventative maintenance. This is where we do less intensive work, but we preserve the street, get it back up to an A+ rating, and we don't have to spend as much after it falls into, or in a state if it has fallen into disrepair. So a lot of overlays planned there in the SPMP, we call it. Cedar Pass is an example, Woolridge, St. Andrews, Sun Valley. Those are just a few listed there. Now, the next chart also, we wanted to highlight, this is something real important to Councilmember Hernandez and really to a lot of people, and not just those in District 5. It's one of our, what we call regional parks, the Bill Whitt Park. And I've been here 15 months, and before I even started the job on a Friday, Councilman Hernandez took me out to Bill Whitt. And it's a beautiful facility, but he and I both know it can be much better. And one thing that was missing is a comprehensive vision for Bill Whitt. What is the master plan as we speak in terms here at City Hall? And so we put money in the current year budget to develop a master plan, and we've made progress on that. We have selected a design firm called Loose Design. That the slideshow there talks about a kickoff meeting, but that's actually with the staff tomorrow. So we're going to be meeting with them. I'll be meeting with them for the first time tomorrow. There'll be public stakeholder meetings with Loose, the consultant who's going to help us develop the master plan, in about 4 to 6 weeks. We expect that the design or the master plan will be done in about 6 months or so, about a half a year. That's going to entail a lot of community input, and from the community, from Del Mar College, who's right across the street, and other big entities. And then the result is going to be, we're going to have the master plan to help develop the park in the future. And so in the 2020 bond program, we're going to show you momentarily, we have funding to design a swimming pool. And where does it go in the park? That master plan will help us answer those questions, and any other future enhancement we'll kind of know generally from the master plan. The master plan will also have things like key signature signage, fencing, entry, way in improvements, so you feel like you're at a destination. And so that's a big amenity for the Bill Whitt Park. As this slide shows, the Bill Whitt Park has a brand new splash pad that we just commissioned. There's 32 acres of soccer fields, and we have 4 kickball and baseball fields. So we really do like that Bill Whitt Park. Now back to what's in the budget new for this fall. For October, as the councilman mentioned, we have 5 new, and the next slide, police officer positions. And this is a continuation of council's commitment to add 5 officers for 5 years in a row, so that by 2024, we'll have 25 new officers. And what this means is that we fill all our vacancies that occur when people retire in the police department. But this adds 25 police officers on top of the current strength. And Chief Markle's with us tonight, and I'm sure he'll be answering a question from the community. on something to do with public safety. But this is a big improvement. For many years, we didn't add any additional police officers. And so as the population grew, our police officer strength remained the same, but this is giving us more police officers to help keep us safe as we grow as a community. And the same is true for fire on the next slide. We're making improvements in fire to include continuing to fill our cadet classes. And in the past, that always was not the case. And so for several years, we didn't train any new firefighters. And as firefighters retired, we had massive vacancies. And we filled those vacancies with overtime, which is not a good use of our taxpayer money. And so the budget includes additional dollars to continue our cadet classes. It also includes money to buy new fire trucks and new EMS vehicles. And so we're excited about that, as is Chief Rocha, and he's on as well, and we'll get a chance to talk to him tonight. In code compliance, this is an issue across the city where we want our neighborhoods to look great, and sometimes it takes a gentle reminder from a code enforcement officer, and we can always use more as our community grows. And so we recommended 2 additional in this budget, so we'll have a total of 23 code compliance officers that'll help improve our neighborhoods and keep people in the codes that we've established to keep our community life high. And then in library, we've made significant improvements, not big dollar ones, but our library director made some recommendations that we included in the budget to increase the library aid and library assistant hours to better serve the public. And we also have more dollars to improve the maintenance in the libraries. Now, we talked about the splash pads. We know there were 3 that were commissioned. One was at Bill Whitt. And this is a good example of what Councilman Hernandez has been talking about, which is when we add new infrastructure, we need to add money to maintain it and make sure we're protecting the investment. And so in this budget, we added $38,000 in additional dollars to maintain these 3 splash pads next fiscal year, and that will stay in the budget until these splash pads are no longer used. And so that'll help on continuing and upgrading the maintenance so that next year it'll look as great as it does today when it's brand new. So we wanted to point that out to you. And solid waste, one thing we're going to focus on this coming year, and the program will slowly begin to unroll late next year and even into fiscal year 2022, is developing an organics composting and collection program. And so today, a lot of what can be turned into compost, into good soil, is thrown into the landfill. And it's over 60% of all our tonnage. So more than 60% of what we haul away, we bury in the landfill, taking up valuable landfill space, when in fact what we can do is turn it into compost. And then we can use that in our properties, our yards, and in other areas. And so more information is coming on that through this next year, but we wanted to introduce it in this budget. And so a key thing on the next chart shows what we talked to you about earlier, which this budget, while it does have all those enhancements we talked about, there are no utility increases, no utility rate increases or tax rate increases. And so there's no change in the water rate. There's no change in the wastewater rate. There's no proposed stormwater fee separate from the water rate, and there's no change in the stormwater fee that people pay today. No proposed rate changes in gas, and no proposed rate changes in our solid waste collection. Now, we did want to take a minute, since we have you all here on our forum, to talk to you about the bond program. We're going to be out in the community. There'll be a bond brochure, a lot more information coming out as well in the coming weeks. But the City Council approved putting on the ballot in November a $75 million bond program to improve our infrastructure in 3 areas: in streets, primarily, with 61 of the 75 million, 12 million for park improvements, and then 2 million for public safety projects. So the voters will consider that this November 4, and it does not require a property tax rate increase. The next chart shows those projects that are specifically in City Council District 5. And there's projects in every City Council district of about the same amount of money. It's not a divide by 5, but we roughly proportional. Every district's getting about the same in terms of dollars. So we have improvements across the city in each of our 5 districts. But you can see here in City Council District 5, a big focus is on streets. Councilman Hernandez made that clear. So Lights, Sunwood to Staples, Rodfield is another street, Yorktown to Adler, Strasburg, Grenoble to Marcial, and then Yorktown, design only, but still, this is a big deal because they'll begin to move that road to a much better Yorktown. That's going to be from Rodfield all the way to Oso Creek Bridge, about $2 million for design. And then there's a total of 5 parks that'll be improved, including Crossgate, Brighton, Brandywine, and Captain Falcone Park. I know I've gotten several calls in Captain Falcone Park, and there's a big group. I'm not sure if any of them are on the meeting tonight, but if you are, you might want to identify yourselves later. But all those parks will have improvements to include new playground equipment and shade as the focus, and then seating areas. And then you can see what I talked about in the last thing there. The Bill Whitt Park has $1 million for a pool and facilities like a clubhouse and changing rooms, that type of thing. It's the design only. And we're going to be designing a real nice pool facility. We know Councilman Hernandez is an avid swimmer, and his children are as well. And so he's a staunch supporter, but we all are here at City Hall. We're looking forward to having a nice pool there. We know that District 5 is the only district that doesn't have a outdoor recreational swimming pool. We do have the natatorium, but that's a little bit of a different scenario. So anyway, that's another project in the bond program that you'll consider in November. Okay, so what we're going to do at this point, that's kind of a quick highlight of what's in the budget. And at this point, we're going to show you the budget video that'll kind of repeat some of that, but give you a little bit more information. And then when we come back on, Deanna McQueen, our communications director, will help to begin to facilitate the dialogue from you to us, and we'll be working with everybody on the WebEx here to get your questions answered and to listen to what you have to say. Thank you.
Corpus Christi is a vibrant coastal community with amazing natural beauty and unprecedented economic growth. It is the 8th most populated city in Texas, with an economic engine that includes industry, military, tourism, and the 3rd largest port by tonnage in the United States. City Manager Peter Zanoni delivered the 2021 City of Corpus Christi proposed budget to City Council on July 28, 2020. The budget is balanced and based on priorities from the community and City Council, with no rate increases for property tax and utility rates. The billion-dollar budget represents $242 million in the general fund, $276 million in the enterprise fund, $126 million in the special revenue funds, $121 million in debt funds, and $260 million in the capital budget. The fiscal year 2021 proposed general fund budget is $265.3 million, which is down from last year at $271.2 million. There are budget enhancements for critical service areas, with no rate increases for property tax and utility rates. With police and fire accounting for 52% of the general fund budget, the remaining departments rely on other funding resources like fines and fees. Solid waste is $28 million, streets $27 million, parks $19 million, and other departments like library, health, and animal care total $54 million. What's new in the proposed budget? Street maintenance and reconstruction will be top priority going into 2021. $78 million has been budgeted for street maintenance and reconstruction, with $33 million going to street maintenance, $34 million to arterials and collectors, and $11 million to residential streets. The streets proposed budget includes a Shoreline Ocean Drive project that will undergo a mill and overlay to rehabilitate over 14 miles of roadway from I-37 to Ennis Joslin Road at $14.5 million. $1 million is budgeted for a new program to provide maintenance for city's concrete streets, and $300,000 for increased pavement markings. The police budget proposals include funding for 5 new police officer positions for a second year of plan to add 25 officers by fiscal year 2024, radio phase 2 equipment purchase of 854 radios for public safety, and a new police academy scheduled for July 2021. The fire department proposed budget includes a new fire academy scheduled for January 2021. CCFD will be at full strength with over 400 sworn firefighters in July 2021 for the first time in the past decade. Truck replacements include 3 medic units, 2 fire engines, 1 aerial truck, and replacement of 140 self-contained breathing apparatus at $931,000. The budget proposal also recommends a $360,000 increase in the city's financial contribution to the firefighter retirement system. Code enforcement budget proposals include 2 additional neighborhood code enforcement officers funded by the Community Development Block Grant to bring the strength to 23 officers. Library proposed budget includes increasing library aid and library assistant hours to better serve the public at $15,000 and increasing custodian hours to maintain cleaner facilities at $18,000. Parks and Recreation budget proposals include funding for maintenance for 3 newly commissioned splash pads at $38,000. Solid waste proposed budget includes beginning an organic waste composting program to decrease the amount of waste going to the landfill, saving taxpayer dollars, and funding for 5 solid waste recycling inspectors for public education to reduce the contamination of recyclables. The COVID-19 pandemic highlighted the importance of the Health District. The Health District budget proposals include an additional $165,000 for an assessment and to create a strategic plan for future operations. The city's credit rating was upgraded to AA-, and the city's comprehensive annual financial report was completed with a positive result. The Finance Department proposed budget includes funding to hire a grant manager and add a utilities liaison connecting the city and utility companies. The IT Department budget proposals include continuing to upgrade the city's infrastructure to increase reliability, security, and network speeds, centralizing the geographic information system to improve support and mapping data for enterprise applications, and creating a security operations center for 24/7 monitoring and support. In the Utilities Department, there are no proposed rate changes for water, wastewater, or gas. The fiscal year 2021 proposed budget is balanced, addresses council and community priorities, focuses on basic city functions such as public safety and streets, and is consistent with council-approved financial policies. Now that the proposed budget is presented, what's next? To adopt the fiscal year 2021 budget, a public hearing and the first reading will be September 8th, and the second reading will be September 15th during City Council meetings. The City of Corpus Christi budget is the blueprint for the next year of programs and services. If you are interested in more details about the budget, visit www.cctexas.com.
Okay, great. We hope you enjoyed that video. It's on the city's website, and if you want to watch it again or forward it to one of your friends or family members, we encourage you to do that. It's a really good video, a good way to summarize the budget and get you involved in your city and in your budget. And so we are going to turn it over to Deanna McQueen now, who is going to help facilitate the dialogue. And before I do, though, I did want to point out that Councilman Greg Smith from District 4, which is across the waterway and across the bridge, that district, but it does stretch along Ocean Drive as well. He has joined us as well, or he was with us from the beginning, but was unable to get unmuted. And so we want to thank him for joining too. So we have Councilman Garza, Guajardo, Hunter, and then Smith, and then hosted by Councilman Hernandez. So a real good showing tonight for City Council District 5, and we thank all the council members for joining. So Deanna, we're going to turn it over to you, and thank you for facilitating.
Yes, sir. We are getting a variety of questions tonight, and I'm going to begin with one that's getting a lot of attention. Will Verner Drive be repaired with this budget?
Can you repeat the name one more time?
I'm going to spell it. It's V as in Victor, A-N-E-R-N, Drive, Verner.
So, Peter, I can answer that question.
Yes, go ahead, Richard.
Hi, good afternoon. Richard Martinez, Director of Public Works here. And it's a great question. So Verner is not currently on our program, but we're evaluating all the streets in the city again this year. And we know that street has a pavement condition index of a 37, which is pretty bad. So I want to kind of explain that a little bit. So a pavement condition score is from 0 to 100. 100 being, brand new street. And so 37 is not in good condition, which means it probably needs to be reconstructed. But we're going to be evaluating all the streets that we get tonight if they're not on the program, and prioritizing them again in our 5-year plan. So we've got our 2021 and 22 plan coming out at the end of September of this year. And then we're working on 23, 24, and 25. And any of the roads we get tonight, we're also going to look at prioritizing in our 5-year plan to see where they land.
And can I just add to that, Deanna? I know streets are important to every city council district, and I know Richard Martinez, who just spoke, did a kind of a welcoming tour. He went to every city council district, so people in District 5 may have met him before, but he's been a great addition to the team here at the city. He comes with 30 years of experience in 2 big Texas cities on how to pave streets and keep them well maintained. And he loves it here in Corpus Christi, and we're glad he's here. What he has done is help to improve the leadership team in the department. He's retraining all our employees, who he speaks very highly of. In fact, the other day he told council that of all the persons and teams he's worked on, these folks here in Corpus are the most dedicated and most professional. And so we're retraining, we're buying equipment, we're taking equipment that was mothballed, that is used to self-do streets ourselves instead of having the contract crews do them, self-perform. And so we have a whole brand new streets program, and people are seeing it and they're noticing it. And I know people are in District 5 as well. But I did just want to give you that introduction, Richard, and the community. We're back in the business, as I've been telling people, of paving streets finally in Corpus Christi. And we're catching up, though, those several years where we didn't do anything. And so that's what Richard was talking about. We're getting all of the 18 and 19 work that's funded done. And the 20 work will begin a little bit into the fiscal year because we're still catching up in the older work. But soon we'll be caught up, so that on any given new fiscal year in October, that's when we start that year's work, not 2 years from October. And so, but we're also going to have that 5-year plan that Richard talked about, and that will be available for the community to see every day of a 5-year plan, of a 5-year continuum, and we'll update that end year as time progresses. So,
and Peter, let me
Yes.
jump in here real quick.
Sure.
As well. When Richard Martinez first came onto the city, I actually grabbed him, took him on a tour of District 5. Van Ern was one of the streets. Miguel was one of the streets. Acushnet, Aaron, Middlecoff, Longmeadow, which we're actually doing right now. Northgate, the section of Lipes, which is actually going to be is on the bond election for November as well. There are several streets on here that we're aware of, and we're working on putting a plan together. Again, the 2021 plan has not been published yet. So not all the streets you saw in this presentation are the ones that are up to 2020. So be patient, look at this. Like I said, reach out to me. If you want myself or Richard to take a look at a street, we will do that. Thank you.
All right, we have another street question. How is the street budget managed, and how can residents get their street looked at and patched up?
That's a great question. So, well, first off, I'll answer the question about how citizens can get their street looked at. So that tonight is one of those avenues. If you are giving us a question about that, we certainly will, take a look at them and investigate them. But you can also call in city customer service line, emails into us, into the Public Works Department. And I also, as our city manager said, I went on the tour and I got a lot of feedback, and we have our staff looking at those too, and we're prioritizing our streets. So once we get that information, which helps us, you help us every day to see what those priorities are. We're looking at the streets that are being done in the district. I like to do what I call a neighborhood approach. And so when we're going through, instead of just doing 1 or 2 streets out there, we're looking at the bond programs, our minor street maintenance programs, our RSRP, our residential reconstructions, our in-house, and we're putting all those together to prioritize a neighborhood so that we have the same type of degradation happening in our roadways throughout the neighborhoods. And so it helps you travel to and from work and play and all those things that you do every day. So managing our program is important. So when we manage our budget, we're looking at everything from pothole patching, and we've actually revamped our pothole patching program. And we're doing more sustainable repairs versus what I mentioned last week to our city manager, throw and go. And you probably as citizens have seen that, where our crews would go out and throw some material in, next rain, it was gone. And so we've gone through now, we square them out, we tack them and put in hot mix versus cold mix. And so we want them to be sustainable. And yes, we do have a lot of potholes in this city, and we're working our way through that. So there's a lot of things that we're doing in our budget as far as minor maintenance, long-term maintenance, overlays, reconstructions, and ultimately, be able to manage our entire street network. That's a great question. Thank you.
All right, going on to parks. Does this proposed budget include lighting for Bill Whitt Park, especially the trail?
Okay, we're gonna see, I'm not sure who's on for parks here.
Hey, Peter, this is Joe Johnson, Assistant Director of Park Operations. We've also got Tracy Cantu, the Interim Director, and Becky's here as well.
Okay.
This budget does not have lighting in it. However, as we stated earlier in the slide, Bill Whitt is going through a master plan, and that is something that the designers that we hired are going to help us through. And when they get through the park and they start designing that park for us, lighting will be an upgrade eventually. They'll help us with that design and figure out where we'll go and the smartest business practices for installing those lights.
All
Very
right,
good.
I have another park question. Does this budget include an increase in pet waste receptacles near parks, hike and bike trails, and other public spaces?
That's the pet waste receptacles is a question that we get a lot. You guys can call the customer service center and request these, or you can call the Parks and Rec department and request them, and we'll make sure that those get installed. We have a running tally and a running list that we keep, and that's not an issue. Just let us know where you want them, and we can make that happen.
So Joey, you guys are doing them, you add them today, you install them today you install them throughout the year, right? You don't just have to wait for a point in time?
No, sir. If we have them in stock, we can install them right then and there. If not, we'll order them and get them installed. But it's not a long lead time on those.
Okay, very good.
I saw a Facebook question earlier, and it was a gentleman was asking about how he goes about getting his garbage can or garbage receptacle replaced.
Okay, good.
Can we walk through that?
Yes, we can. We should have our solid waste director on, David Layfeld. David, are you on tonight?
Yes, sir. David Layfelt, Director of Solid Waste Services. In order to get your trash can replaced, if there's a problem with it, just call the customer service hotline. Let them know that there's an issue. We'll send a crew out. We'll evaluate it. Sometimes it's just a matter of fixing a wheel. We can fix those on location. If the cart is damaged beyond repair, then we will swap it out with a new cart and then take the other cart back for recycling.
Okay, David, what number?
That would be that would be the city customer service line, or they can call our office at 826-1966.
And Deanna, what is the customer service number for the city? Not the 1966 one, but what's the other one?
It's 826 City.
Okay.
The 826 city would be the
826-2489.
2489. That's the
Yes, sir.
826 city 2489. And I told the community, I think this district in particular, that the city soon will have a simpler number to call. We don't have it yet, so don't use it yet, but soon we're going to have 311. That's the only number you have to remember. You can see even tonight, it's hard to get all these numbers memorized, but all you have to remember in the future, and we'll announce when that takes place, is 311. That'll get you right to our call center. But David, just one other quick question on that. So is there a fee to the customer if the garbage can is just deteriorated over time and they call in, and is there a fee?
No, sir. These carts have a limited life expectancy. They only cost us about $40 to $45 a piece, and we expect them to wear out over time. We've been getting about 10 years life expectancy from them, so they're very durable. We do have to replace broken wheels. That happens. The nature of our business with the trucks picking them up and putting them back down. We get comments that our drivers slam the carts back down and break the wheels, but the reality is that those are hydraulically operated trucks. They don't have fine tuning, and oftentimes, although it appears that the driver's slamming it down, it's just the hydraulics in action. So we replace wheels, we replace lids, and overall, if somebody has a cart that needs to be replaced, unless there's obvious damage or abuse, we replace it and give them a brand new shiny cart and move on to the next one.
Right, and they're not billed anything is the point, right? They're not billed, there's no bill to the customer.
Right, we don't have any additional charge. It's all part of the monthly fee that they pay us.
Yes, sir.
Just part of the service that we provide.
Okay, great, thank you. Deanna, we're gonna give it back to you.
Yes, sir. Are there plans for a new wastewater plant in this proposed budget?
We do have our utility director on, and we'll let him say hi here in a moment, but there is not. We have 6 wastewater treatment plants, and that's sufficient for the city right now, given our geographic size and number of households and commercial establishments. But I will add, and then Kevin's going to come on in a moment, that we have significant and major infrastructure investments in each one of them that's programmed in the budget. You may recall that capital budget number of over $250 million. And a lot of that is monies that are programmed for wastewater and water improvements in our system. And Kevin, do you want to add a little bit to that?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Kevin Norton, Director of Water Utilities. There are major capital improvement projects that are either planned, in design, or in construction at all 6 of our wastewater treatment plants. With the exception of Broadway, which actually needs more work to be done. The last major rehabilitations on any of the plants was back in the 1980s. So the projects are actually kind of overdue. We have additional work that's going on out in what we call the collection system. That's the underground pipes and the lift stations. Corpus Christi is very flat, so we have 102 lift stations to transport sewage to the wastewater treatment plants. And we have a lift station rehab program that's been going on for the last 4 or 5 years, and more lift stations to be looked at as well. And in addition to cleaning, inspecting, and rehabilitating the underground pipes.
All right, we're going to move on to public libraries. Will public libraries see an increase in their budget to improve services?
They will, yes. And we're gonna, Laura, our library director that does a great job and who hosted many of our meetings last year in person, is on, and we're gonna let her answer that question.
Yes, Laura Garcia, Library Director. Yes, there's a plan to increase the hours of our part-time staff, so there is funding in the budget for that.
And tell us
$2,000 or so.
Tell us the positions, Laura, and also mention your maintenance as well.
The library aide positions will be increased from 18 hours a week to 20. The library assistant part-time positions will go from 18 to 25, and our part-time custodian staff will also go from 18 to 25 hours. And this all helps with the maintenance of our facilities, and of course, adds so that we can provide extra services to our patrons.
Great, thank you, Laura.
Here's one for the chief of police. What impact will a decrease in civilian workforce have on the police department's performance?
That's a great question. All the staff variances for the police department are operational positive, actually. What I mean by that is, although we did reduce one staff assistant position, that's been repurposed as a code enforcement officer. So that's going to allow more work to be done operationally in the field, very much needed work. The other position variances are the addition of 5 officers, which is also a positive impact on operational ability. So we should see no reduction in abilities to do work. In fact, we should see quite the opposite. We should be able to handle more calls at a better pace and provide better service to the public. Great question.
All right, here's a hot topic right now here in the community. Does this budget go towards the desalination plant?
We're going to have Kevin talk a little bit about that, but I will as well. So the budget has funds in our capital budget for the desalination plant. And City Council, in fact, had a robust discussion yesterday in our City Council meeting, and they have an item on their agenda next week. And so the council for almost a decade, really at this point, has addressed the policy issue of water availability and water sources. And for the most recent years has been focused on desalination, seawater desalination. And so the budget includes resources to begin to address the design of one of the two that are planned of a desalination plant, for design, for site acquisition and power plant work that needs to be done with AEP. And we're working with the state in various aspects of the desalination plant to include permitting. We have 4 permit applications in, 2 for intake and 2 for discharge for the 2 plants. And then also we're working with the state to obtain a very low interest loan to consider the desalination plant's design and then construction. The mechanics of how it would be built and who would operate it, all that still has to be worked out with City Council policy direction in the near future. But the city is committed to helping the community and the industry find alternate water sources. We're not talking too much about it right now because we've been pretty blessed with the rain and that we've had this year, but deep South Texas here can go into a drought at any time. And all of our water for the city is surface water, meaning rivers and lakes. And so it's a precarious to dangerous position to put ourselves into. And so we're looking at a sustainable drought-proof water source. And there is money in the budget to begin that assessment for the one desalination plant. Kevin, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Sir, you actually covered like just about everything. I'm trying to think what I could add to it. The only thing I think that I can add to that is that the city's actually been looking at alternate water supplies for decades. You know, when we kind of go back into the records, you know, with the major droughts that have happened over time. And so the city's been looking at, you know, groundwater, seawater desalination, brackish groundwater, and, you know, including using the effluent, the discharge from the wastewater treatment plants and using that as a water source. So all that has been looked at. And like the city manager had said, the seawater really the best, most reliable, and really kind of the most reliable. I mean, that's the biggest thing because the bay is there. You know, the bay is always there, and the other sources might not always be there to convert into potable water. And so the desal, that's how the desal picked up. The state of Texas has also been super supportive, and it's the Texas Water Development Board is the one that the city's been working with for many years on it. We actually got a low interest loan already to do a lot of the preliminary work that's been happening already. And they have approved a larger loan for up to $222 million for the design and construction and everything else that goes ahead of it, all the preliminary work for a desalination plant on the Inner Harbor.
Great. Thank you, Kevin.
And Peter, if I might,
go ahead
on this here. There is not unanimity on this particular project, and there's still a lot more discussion needs to be involved in this to cover all the details and what the best thing is for the community. Now, again, this is on top of everything else we need to do within utilities. So I want to make sure that we don't harm our ratepayers and those of you who pay the utility bills by doing this. You know, we need the water, and I'm not opposed to desal, but we want to make sure we're doing this in the right way, so we're not overpaying and paying too much for it. So this is still up for discussion, and it is not part of this budget. Thank you.
All right, we have a two-part question here. Does the budget include funds to handle abandoned properties? And is it possible to turn abandoned properties into affordable housing?
Chief, let me do the opening, and then Chief Markle, our police chief, oversees co-compliance that deals a lot with placing liens on properties, and so that is a concept that many cities use across Texas and the country, is acquiring assets that are either abandoned or they've gone into foreclosure, or we get them through back tax deals where the property owner just vacates the property and ultimately it's sold. And so those are good ways to take a vacant lot or a lot that may have a structure on it that has to be removed and put affordable housing on. There's many programs in the nation that we can model this type of a program after. And one good thing about the concept is that we finally have a staff person here at City Hall that's focused every day. This person just started, in fact, this week. And so that person's job is to focus on affordable housing, which is an important topic for any community today, especially, and even so here in Corpus Christi. And so that type of program is a good one, and we'll be looking at it for future implementation here in the city. And Chief, do you want to add anything else to that, Chief Markle?
Yeah, actually, I had Assistant Chief David Blackman standing by all week on these meetings and
Oh, great.
deals with this.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Excuse me, Peter. Yeah, David Blackman, Police Department. So I guess to start the first answer to the question is we have roughly $200,000 that we use to address dilapidated buildings. So 100,000 that comes out of general fund, and 100,000 comes out of our federal community development block grant money. So we use that to eradicate these dilapidated structures. In doing so, the property, they still belong to the property owner. Okay, so we step in, we eradicate that problem, and then from there, it's up to the property owner, if there is one, to settle up, or if not, we move towards foreclosure through the county, through a third-party agent, and then back taxes, whatever it may be, is paid. Now, the city is not the sole shareholder in these foreclosures. The county and school district and everybody else has a little bit of that. So often that provides challenges, but it is a great idea. I think we've had interest and been successful that in the past. And I'm like Peter, I think it's a great project to look forward to moving forward on these properties that vacant for many years.
All right, we're getting a lot of street questions. What is the reason for adding a new street on Rodfield from Yorktown to Adler?
Okay, Peter. It's Richard Martinez, Director of Public Works. And so during the bond process, we look at all different types of roadways, but one area we look at are expansions. So what do we do as far as having to add additional capacity to our system? And when we did, we looked at areas like Yorktown, Rodfield. A lot of that is already being, or Rodfield's being reconstructed. But we also looked at things that we take in the Vision Zero process, which is safety coming out of neighborhoods. And so when we did that, we looked at a neighborhood which is Rancho Vista, and everyone having to come out of that onto Yorktown. And in that area, it's really highly congested, as all of you probably already know. And so we looked and said, what expansion project could we do that made sense, that we could have another outlet coming out of a couple of neighborhoods, could add some additional outlets from other neighborhoods on the other side, and then be utilized for future expansions to the regional parkway, which is something that's going to be done in the future. And that's on a list for possible funding. And so we're not just putting one piece in and then nothing will ever be done. So we looked at Rodfield and prioritized that as the first step of looking at that section, which is supposed to be a 4-lane divided roadway, and we're looking at putting in 2 lanes. So just starting that piece, so then the next expansion can come along and either allow for other neighborhoods to tie in, to be able to get out to Rodfield and that intersection there, Rodfield and Yorktown, with a new light. And then also be able to go to the regional parkway in the future. We're also looking at Yorktown. So in the budget this year, we also have for the bond, in which the voters are going to work on. Again, Rodfield and Yorktown, those are going to have to be voted on by the voters to approve. And Yorktown has money for design. And again, looking to expand Yorktown later as you go down future bond programs.
And Peter, let me chime in on that as well. This is something important because we can't just look at behind us, but we also got to look at future for mobility. It's important to prioritize the regional parkway because there's a lot of development going on in that area around the Rodfield and Yorktown intersection. We also have the Del Mar building a new Southside campus there as well. So we got to think about what traffic movement is going to be, not just now, but also in the future. This allows us to prioritize the regional parkway with the Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO, so we can leverage that for federal funding so we can build that. That will also help people in District 4 so that it kick off the regional parkway and allow for a second access to the island sometime down the road as well. So not only are we looking at the problems that we have now with our streets, but also what we can do in the future. And it's important to be able to see the big picture overall. So I think it's a good project.
Will the budget cover speed humps on Oso Boulevard and Shady Creek area?
Okay, so I did see a couple of questions on that, and there was one of the questions was in the Oso Parkway that there's a lot of speeding that's going on there. So besides speed humps, there are other traffic calming devices and programs we can put in place. And in that area, we're looking at putting driver feedback signs so that we can capture the data that shows us how fast people are going and when they're speeding, and so that we can properly implement the right traffic calming method. So speed humps, they do help in some areas, but studies also have been shown that when you put speed humps, vehicles tend to speed between the 2 speed humps to try to make up lost time. So although speed humps do work in certain areas, we don't want to look at them as what we would be putting in everywhere without the city. So right now we're looking at Oso Parkway to put in, to do the driver feedback signs. And in the budget this year, I want to tell you, in the budget this year that's been approved through Vision Zero, additional signs were approved by council for us to purchase, so we can be putting driver feedback signs up throughout the city. And I want to explain a little bit about what those driver feedback signs are. And you've seen them on highways. They basically are signs that post your speed, and they do work to an extent, but when you turn them off, you can gain data when they're dark, that you can actually see that what the speeds are without giving the drivers that feedback, and then turn them on and see exactly what happens when we turn them on. So again, we will look at that area, but I don't want to say that we're going to be putting up speed humps until we find out what the data is.
Okay, will this year's budget help decrease flooding in commonplace areas?
Yes, it will. We're going to have Richard answer that one as well.
Okay.
Richard.
So yes. So with the stormwater program, we've been looking at the entire department. And so Public Works consolidated this last year and took in the stormwater division. And so with that, we've been looking at all the programs that that stormwater does, and then gone back through and saying, what do we need to do to improve that in the future? And one of the areas that happens to be a part of what the question is just asked is stormwater drainage maintenance. And so, yes, we are going to be increasing our maintenance and our drainage system when it comes to mowing, when it comes to dredging, and also inlet protection. So water quality, inlet cleaning. So there's a lot of different programs that we're trying to improve with our stormwater program that actually addresses flooding. And there are some projects, specific projects in our stormwater capital program that'll help us do that. And I'll mention a couple of them. One of them is a Williams ditch that we're working on right now. It's not in District 5, but that area floods all the time and backs up and jeopardizes homes. And so we're looking at expanding that channel this year. I have toured the entire District 5 with Councilman Hernandez. We've gone through and looked at a lot of the drainage ditches in those areas that are ponding water and holding water. And so I'm looking at prioritizing a lot of work in District 5 as well, based on the amount of debris and vegetation that's out there, so that we can move that stormwater out into our bays and not flood.
Okay, I have a North Beach question. Is the city spending the utility budget on the North Beach Canal?
Peter, you're muted.
Oh, great. Sorry. Thank you about that. Thank you, Councilman. So let me repeat that. So the budget, the answer is no. The budget is not using any current utility revenue. We did have some stormwater bonds or debt that we had issued some time ago, and there were balances in that account. And so that's what we're using to pay for the first phase of a kind of a pre-design study that's answering two questions for the council. And those questions are, what is the final project design? Late last year, council approved under certain conditions advancing the project forward, but there was a lot of uncertainty towards the end about what would the canal be like, and how do you get into the canal? And so the consultant's answering the questions: what is it? What's the project? And then secondly, will it work? Will it work as it was intended to do, which is alleviate drainage and flooding? And then two, will it work as a navigable canal? And that question has to consider, will the water quality be good enough? Will it circulate well enough, given the engineering design, to be a canal? So that work is underway. It should be done by December. But the contract the funds to pay for the contract come from existing monies that we had borrowed to do some infrastructure work, and there was some monies left over in that project budget. And that's it, Deanna. We'll turn it back over to you.
All right, sir. What is the RWCA portion of the utility bill?
The raw water, probably, Kevin. You want to answer that one?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, so the RWCA that you see on your bill is, like the city manager said, that's the raw water portion. Everyone pays for that. We have, the city manager also mentioned, we have 4 water sources right now, surface sources. And so all that water gets combined into the Owen Stevens water treatment plant and then treated and distributed. So that's why everyone pays the raw water charge, because everyone is sharing that part of it.
And Kevin, let me just add to that. So not everybody pays for treated water, though, and hence the difference.
That's true. Yes, sir. We do have raw water customers, and they get charged. It's $1.07 per 1,000 gallons.
And the raw water customer doesn't need treated water, so they don't pay for that expense. But it's kind of a flat fee. Everybody pays the raw water fee because everybody uses, or everybody partakes in the raw water.
And there's the cost to get it to here to them.
Right. To get it treated. Yes, sir. Okay, good.
Here's a solid waste question. When is the landfill currently scheduled to close?
Not anytime soon, and we're going to have, let's have David answer that one. It has a lot of useful life. The city did a great job years ago in purchasing this property for for a landfill for a city. A lot of cities have to rely on the private sector and their own land and their own landfills, and you get charged a big price. So, David, let me have you finish the rest of that answer.
Yes, sir. David Layfelt, Director of Solid Waste Services. The landfill currently has 177 years of life in our permitted capacity. We've got several projects that we're looking at that the composting program, for instance, will extend the life of the landfill by reducing the amount of waste we put in the landfill. So the composting program could extend the life and take it over 200 years easily. And then we've got a permit modification that we're looking at that if we implement that down the road a ways, it could stretch it out to even more than that, 250 to 300 years. So the planners of the city have done a fantastic job setting this up so that as far as landfill capacity goes, we don't have an issue. There's nobody here, and even our grandkids won't be worrying about the capacity of the Corpus Christi landfill.
Here's another District 5 question. Will residents be included in the upgrade planning to Bill Whitt?
Yes, they will be. And I'm going to see if Councilman Hernandez wants to help answer that question. But there's going to be numerous ways where we're going to get the community engaged. Probably some of them may be similar to what we're doing tonight through interactive engagement. But there'll be surveys. There'll be a lot of different ways that the community will get involved. And in fact, the whole plan really is dependent on that. It's not a bunch of planners sitting around at City Hall dreaming up what we want, but it's rather all the subdivisions and all the people that live, and we know there's a lot, driven around there myself, a lot of people that live there. So we want to get your all's perspective about what do you want? What do you want that park to look like? And so it's a critical part of the planning for the master plan. And Councilman, do you want to add a little bit to that?
Absolutely. Now, Bill Whitt has been there for a long, long time, and it's been neglected for a long, long time. And it was one of my priorities when I campaigned last cycle to make sure that we do something with Bill Whitt to make it really usable for the community. And that starts off with doing a master plan, and that took some time to work it out. We have some funding in the bond, if it's approved, to look to design a swimming pool, I would say an aquatics facility to where it's recreational as well as exercise oriented, where we have a splash pad going in. There's more things that we can do, and I want to make sure that we do as much as we can and use the community enrichment funds for this regional park, so we can, it'd be something we're proud of. Like I said, it's been neglected for a long time, and it is a priority of mine. And definitely, everybody that's in District 5 and in that community should be participating. Not going to make everybody happy, but we're going to make it better than what it is. And that's my commitment to you. Thank you.
Does this budget include incentives for homeowners to go solar?
I don't, you know what, Dan McGinn maybe can help answer that. I don't believe so. Dan, we don't have any solar panel program, do we, in the budget? And Dan may not be on from planning. Well, I think the answer on this one, unless any of the department heads know beyond what I'm going to say, but we don't have any funds in our budget to help residential or commercial properties go solar. But one thing we have added in the budget that will help to get to that level soon is a position. We've added very few positions in the budget, but one that we did add consciously is a utility coordinator position. And so the city today has really no staff person that's dedicated to working with AEP Texas, the company that manages the transmission grid. Not to mention the large number of electric providers that exist. You can select from a number of electricity providers. And then we have other telecommunication and utility companies, the phone companies, cable companies, and they all work with the city, yet we have nobody there for them to work with directly. And so we've added a utility liaison, the utility coordinator liaison position, with the goal of getting better rates for the ratepayer, getting better service for the customer, If a light's out in your neighborhood, it can take a long time to get that bulb replaced under certain circumstances. So we want to improve a lot when it comes to utilities that the city doesn't control. That includes electricity and cable and telephone. And so that'll help in the future in programs like this, where some cities do have rebate programs to help their residents with solar. And so I think I think that would be it, Deanna, on that question, unless anybody else wants to add to it.
All right, we have another library question. Is Hoopla, a library checkout program, receiving more funding with this proposed budget?
Laura Garcia, Library Director. At this time, our service agreement is in place, and at this point, we are actually have $60,000 that goes towards that. So at this time, we're not increasing that budget. It is a very popular service, but at this time, like I said, with the budget will remain at that same amount.
All right, Chief, we have a question for you. Does the budget allow the police substation in Flower Bluff to be reopened?
Chief, you're muted.
Can you hear me now? I thought I was unmuted there. There we go.
Yeah, we can hear you now, Chief.
There we go. It's not directly part of the budget. It's the city manager is selling CFOs to finish that station. The hope is that what will happen is not just a hope. What's happening is being refurbished, have a real substation that will be open to the community to come in and get reports, and hopefully we'll have a desk sergeant there and have some interaction going on. We'll have a professional briefing room for the officers, and we're looking forward to it. So the short answer, yes, it is going to be reopened. The project's just now getting underway, so it'll be some very positive moving forward for substations here, and the ability to interact with the community and have a closer place than downtown. You know, we have a big spread out city, so we have a closer place for our residents to come and pick up reports and those types of things. We're looking forward to it.
And can I just add to that, Chief? Correct me on some of the square footages of the size, but that building is entirely the city's building, and the police substation, the current one, was probably in 25% of the building, and maybe it occupied about 25.
Exactly right. It's about 1,000 square feet out of 4,000 square feet.
Right. So it's okay. So but what we're going to do is we're going to make the entire 4,000 square feet the police substation. So I walked in there one night to meet the chief, and it had begun to go into the construction phase, but I was looking for more doors to walk through. I'm like, where's the substation, chief? So we had some other operations in the 3,000 square feet, and we're going to turn that. We've reconfigured that operation and freed up all that space, so that entire building will have a makeover, and it'll be a highly visible, highly functioning, and decent sized police substation. It really focused on community engagement. We want the community to want to go in there and feel comfortable that they're there. And we're going to be improving the interior and the exterior of the building. And we put money in this budget to be able to do that. We had some monies from the 2018 bond, I believe, and we're augmenting that with additional resources to make this happen. So it's going to be a great addition for down there on that highly visible corner, and right next to that great park that the city has there, and other assets.
Sure, I believe that's a wrap on my end, so I'll send it back to you.
Okay, great. We wanted to I'm just going to have a few of the directors just say hi real quick to the community. I know we love our public safety here, and I know Chief Rocher, our fire chief, is on. Let me just have him say a quick hi to our community down there in District 5. Chief.
Well, thank you, Peter. I'm a resident of District 5, so not only am I listening as a department head, but listening to you and the council members and to Councilman Hernandez with what's going on in the 5th District. And I'm very happy with what's going on in the 5th District. With regards to the fire department, I'm also very happy with what's going on there. We're going to be finally fully staffed next year. And so I'm very happy and appreciative to the mayor and the council and to you for giving me the support that we needed to get that done. So thank you very much, Peter.
Great, thank you, Chief. And then Annette Rodriguez, our Public Health Director, who I'm sure many of you have seen, has been with us all night, and she's almost working 24 hours a day. So since she's still here, I just want Annette to say a quick hi and give us our thoughts on COVID, or a reminder, Annette. You do a great job at that.
Thank you so much. So for District 5, we are looking at all the districts right now, and we're seeing decreasing numbers of COVID-19 cases. So we want to get really excited, but I think Dr. Fauci says it best. We're cautiously optimistic. And if you need any public health needs, or if you have anything, questions on COVID-19 or any other public health related questions for District 5, please feel free to reach out to us, 826-7200. Thank you.
Thank you for you and your team's work and helping us stay as safe as we can with this worldwide pandemic.
Thank you.
Then, yes, Councilman Hernandez, I'm just going to see if some of the other council members want to say anything, starting with Councilman Garza. I'm not sure if everybody's still on. I know we're a little past our time, but
I'm still on.
Great. Okay. Yes, sir.
A couple words, if it's
yes.
possible. I just want to say thank you to Councilman Hernandez for his leadership in this particular period. I love the approach that we're taking right now. When I first got on the council, was representing District 5. Our focus is trying to figure out where we're going to get some funds to be able to do some of the street work that we desperately needed to do. I'm starting to see some of the fruition of some of the work we've done previously. And I think with the balanced approach that we're taking to our budget, and also focusing on some of the stuff that we want to do in terms of Parks and Rec, I just think that I'm real pleased with the current budget, and I'm happy to support District 5 in the work that Councilman Hernandez is doing. But thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Councilman Garza. Councilwoman Guajardo, did you want to say a few comments tonight? Okay, we are past our time, so some of the council members may have exited the meeting. I know Councilman Hunter is on, but Councilman Hunter, did you want to say anything? Okay, Councilman Smith, do you want to say anything? I don't know if you're having some audio issues earlier. Okay. Okay, Councilman Hernandez, before I turn it back over to you, we're going to put one more slide up for the community just to show them the next steps. And so this is our 5th and final community public engagement meeting that we've conducted over the past 2 weeks, but there's still one more opportunity, or 2 more really, if you want to continue to talk to the council about the budget. And one is going to be on September 8th. We're going to have 2 hearings, one on the budget and then one on the city property tax rate. So September 8th, that's a Tuesday. That'll be the day after Labor Day. And just as a reminder, our protocol at City Council for community input has changed because of COVID-19. And so we're allowing phone-in testimony from residents. You can call in and get a reserved spot, and then you talk to the council over the telephone with the speaker system in our council chambers. Or you can submit written testimony through internet, or you can drop it off live at the city secretary's office. And then on September 8th also is our first reading on the budget. And then the second opportunity will be the day the budget's adopted by City Council, and that's planned and scheduled for Tuesday, September 15th. And so that will be the second reading and the final adoption of the budget on the 15th. So we're doing a lot of work to get to that end, and tonight's engagement with the community is an important step in that. The City Council has been hosting work sessions each of the past several Thursdays. They have a few more to go. The 2 3-hour-long work sessions where we drill into the budget, and the department heads give the council a lot more material than what we did when we proposed the budget. And so all of that input ultimately will culminate into the adopted budget, and that's the city's financial and service delivery plan for the next 12 months. So it's a critical policy document for a city, for any city, and especially our city. So I want to thank the community for allowing us to have this meeting tonight. It's a privilege and an honor to be your city manager, and I'm proud of the progress we're making and my team is making, and making a better Corpus Christi. And I'm appreciative of all the support the community has given us as we do the work that you want us to do. And with that, Councilman, I'm going to turn it over to you for the final remarks for this evening.
Peter, thank you. And I want to thank all the everybody involved in putting the budget together, from our finance department, Constance Sanchez, all our department heads, even some of our new ones that haven't been here that long, Richard Martinez, Al Raymond, who was not discussed here, in development services. We've done a lot of good things here, and we're on the upside. Is this budget perfect? No. Is there ever enough resources? No. We're doing our best here to prioritize and make sure we try to get as much as we can with the limited resources that we have. And my promise to you is to make sure that we spend this money wisely and we stay on budget. This is important, and I want to thank everyone for coming out, for getting on the WebEx. I know it's not ideal. Sometimes you like to do these things in person, so you can see and talk and see somebody directly. But it's this is the times we live in. We're accommodating it. Again, you can reach out to me at any time. My contact information, including my cell phone number, are on the website, cctexas.com. Just go down to City Council and scroll down to District 5, and you can get a hold of me. I will respond. Thank you again, and have a good evening. Things are getting better. Thanks again.